Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the absolute most fascinating and honestly fundamentally crucial topics in all of human biology and nutrition. We are talking about the sheer power of proteins. We're going to take an incredible journey today, going all the way from the food sitting right there on your plate, all the way down to the microscopic peptides folding inside your cells.
Now, to really get why this matters to you right this second, just think about this number for a moment. Proteins make up roughly 20% of your total body mass. That's a lot, right? But here is the truly staggering part. If you took a single one of your cells and removed every drop of water, proteins would account for a massive 50% of that cellular dry weight. They are literally the primary building blocks of almost everything you are. We're talking muscles, skin, hair, hormones, and even your antibodies. The personal stakes here couldn't possibly be higher, because without proteins, basic bodily functions simply cease to exist. So, to make sense of this massive topic, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the building blocks. Second, we'll step inside the cellular factory. Third, we'll explore the incredible art of folding. And finally, we'll bring it all back to fueling your body. Let's get started.
All right, section 1, the building blocks.
You know, we constantly hear about protein as just another macronutrient we eat alongside fats and carbs. But to truly grasp how it works, we really need to demystify what these crucial nutrients are actually made of at a microscopic level. Think of amino acids as the literal Lego bricks of life. They have a basic chassis. You've got an amino group and an acidic carboxylic group. But the real magic, that happens with the unique R group, or side chain. That R group is the unique identifier. It's exactly what makes one amino acid behave completely differently from another, and it gives us the 20 distinct protein-building amino acids used in the human body.
So how do these individual Lego bricks actually snap together to build something useful? Well, they do it through something called a peptide bond. When the carboxyl group of one amino acid reacts with the amino group of its neighbor, they link up incredibly tightly. And in the process, they actually release a single molecule of water. It's brilliant. You connect two together, you get a dipeptide. 3 makes a tripeptide. Keep repeating this exact process, and you eventually build massive, highly complex protein chains. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. Once those bonds form, you get this super rigid backbone. It forms a repeating sequence, nitrogen, carbon, carbon, or NCC. That becomes the structural core of the chain. Meanwhile, those diverse R side chains we just talked about, they actually stick out completely separate from that backbone, totally ready to interact with the environment around them. Which brings us to section 2, the cellular factory. Now that we've got our raw materials sorted, let's step onto the factory floor. We're shifting from the materials themselves over to the actual manufacturing phase, basically treating the human body as a highly efficient, heavily regulated microscopic factory. This manufacturing process is known as protein biosynthesis, and it completely relies on 2 sequential steps: transcription and translation. Just imagine your DNA as this ultimate, heavily guarded master blueprint locked away safely in a vault, and the ribosomes in your cells as the bustling assembly line where the real work gets done. Let's break down these 2 critical phases. Transcription happens first. Deep down in the nucleus, you can think of that as the factory manager's office. An enzyme actively copies the DNA blueprint into a temporary messenger molecule called mRNA. Then we move to translation. That's when that mRNA copy leaves the office and heads straight out to the factory floor, the ribosomes. Out there, the message gets decoded in these little triplets, and helper molecules called transfer RNA act almost like microscopic delivery interns. They literally scurry around to bring the exact raw materials, the specific amino acids, to the assembly workers, linking them together in perfect, precise order. Moving right along to section 3, the art of folding. Here's the thing, though. A simple, long string of amino acids just rolling off the assembly line, it's basically useless on its own. To do any real biological work, it has to be shaped into a highly specific, functional, 3-dimensional tool. Protein folding is, no joke, the ultimate high-stakes origami project. Before they can act as enzymes or transport molecules or structural supports, proteins have to go through 4 distinct levels of structural organization: primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. Let's step through exactly how this builds. First up is the primary structure, and this is simply the exact sequencing of the amino acid chain. It's just the linear order of the beads on the string, exactly as it was dictated by that mRNA blueprint we got from our cellular factory.
It's absolutely crucial because any slight change right here can throw off the entire protein later on. Immediately after that, in the secondary structure, local interactions start bending the chain. Hydrogen bonds naturally twist the chain into spirals, which are called alpha helices, or they fold it back and forth into beta-pleated sheets. It looks very much like a folded paper fan.
Now, the absolute crucial point comes at the tertiary structure. Remember those unique R side chains sticking out from the backbone? Well, they finally start interacting with each other. Some attract each other, some repel water, and some bond really tightly together. This internal push and pull collapses the entire protein into a highly complex, compact 3D shape. And listen, this is vital. It is exactly this precise 3D shape that gives the protein its specific, real-world function in your body.
Finally, we reach the quaternary structure. You see, a lot of the complex proteins in our bodies aren't just one single folded chain. They are actually multiple folded chains locked together. Take hemoglobin, for example. That's the vital protein carrying oxygen in your blood. It's constructed of 4 completely separate folded polypeptide chains, interlocking and working together in perfect harmony. It's just amazing.
And that brings us to our final section, fueling your body.
All right, so we've seen the microscopic magic, but let's bring this all back down to Earth and connect this incredible cellular biology directly to your everyday eating habits. Because knowing how essential these processes are naturally leads us to the most practical question of all. So how much dietary protein do you actually need to consume to keep this microscopic factory running smoothly without breaking down? The actual numbers here might surprise you. That standard dietary guideline of 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight you always hear, that's really just the absolute bare minimum for a healthy average adult. But your body's demands are constantly fluctuating. If you're dealing with high stress, battling an illness, or doing heavy sports, your cellular factory is basically working overtime to regenerate tissue. In those cases, that need can easily jump up to 2 grams or even 3 grams per kilogram of body weight during extreme performance or recovery. But here's the real kicker. While our bodies use 20 specific proteogenic amino acids to build all these amazing structures, 8 of them, including those popular branched chain amino acids like valine and leucine, are classified as essential. Why? Simply because your cellular factory entirely lacks the biological machinery to build them from scratch. There's no workaround. You absolutely must supply them directly from your diet, every single day, or the whole assembly line halts. So what happens if you don't supply those essential materials? Well, the factory slows down drastically. And protein deficiency isn't just about losing some muscle mass. It has massive, wide-ranging health implications. Because proteins are strictly required to create enzymes, hormones, and immune cells, a deficiency is directly linked to poor sleep and increased susceptibility to infections, terrible wound healing, and get this, even low mood and depression. Without dietary proteins, basic cellular functions just can't be maintained. To avoid all that, we really need to talk about biological value. When you eat protein, your body breaks it down into individual components before rebuilding it into human protein. Animal proteins are highly similar to our own, which makes them very easy and efficient for us to use. However, the ultimate nutritional strategy is actually combining them with plant sources. Think of a really simple everyday meal like a bowl of oatmeal with a side of eggs, or maybe a hearty lentil stew. Mixing these diverse sources massively increases the biological value, giving your body the absolute best, most comprehensive amino acid profile possible. Now, before we wrap up, I want to take a quick second to debunk a really persistent myth. You've probably heard people claim that eating too much protein will damage your kidneys, right? Well, scientific studies firmly agree on this point. With healthy kidney function, an excess of protein is simply not a burden. Your body doesn't just waste it or let it cause damage. It smoothly converts that oversupply into carbohydrate or fat building blocks to be safely used as energy or stored for later. So we've journeyed all the way from the whole foods sitting on your plate down to the intricate, perfectly orchestrated folding of a microscopic peptide. Remember, your body is literally a continuous construction site. It is constantly breaking down and rebuilding itself cell by cell, and it relies entirely on the fuel you provide. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. What kind of materials are you sending to your factory floor today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep feeding your curiosity.